I was born with a facial vascular birthmark called a port wine stain, and today I have a very special guest where I hopped onto Zoom with him and we talked all about our experiences living with facial vascular birthmarks. This guest in particular is super close to my heart because it's one of my best friends, husbands, but more specifically, he is a therapist himself. Quite often, we don't hear therapists talk about their own struggles and problems with things, so without further ado, let's dive into the interview. Want to get to know you, and if you want to introduce yourself, that would be awesome too.
Sure. So I'm Orlando. I like to be called Orlo, honestly. I'm a licensed therapist in New Jersey, and I obviously have port wine stain. So do you, and we both have very unique experiences, and I think we share a lot of similarities, as we were talking about a little before.
Definitely. And you've when you became a therapist, was it related at all to like your experience, or was it just?
No, I'll tell. All right, let me start from the beginning, right? So
Okay.
I was born in Costa Rica. We came to Costa Rica when I was 5, and it was for 2 reasons. Like one of the reasons was like chasing that American dream that we all want, but the second was because in Costa Rica at that time, the pulse dye laser existed, but it actually wasn't being done on kids just yet. Like it hadn't been approved, and at that time, like my parents wanted me to get the treatment done. And so they did their research. And can I tell you something funny? So in one of your videos, you were talking about Dr. Nelson. And you kept saying like Dr. Nelson's like the top port wine stain guy.
Yeah.
And I was reading those videos. I'm like, who's Dr. Nelson? Like Dr. Nelson's not the top port wine stain guy. The top guy is my guy. That's Dr. Geronimus in New York is the top guy.
Yeah, they're best friends. Yeah.
Yes. Because I didn't know Nelson at all. So I did my research after I watched your video. I was like, oh, okay, Dr. Nelson is also a top guy. But then I got even further because then I watched the second of your videos and you talked about Dr. Nelson again. I'm like, Dr. Nelson again? Who is this guy? And then I was like, not only Dr. Geronimus, but then there's Dr. Gregory Levitin, who is like a port wine stain, miracle surgeon. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
No, I've heard of him before, but I know Dr. Nelson works closely with them.
Yes. So I was like, those are the top guys. Then I looked him up and I was like, okay, Dr. Nelson is the go-to also. But you're on your side of the coast because you're in Cali and I'm in Jersey, so New York, right?
Yep.
So they found Dr. Geronimus, the real OG. And so he did my first port wine stain pulse dye laser treatment when I was 5 years old. And similar to your story of like trauma, that was obviously like a traumatic experience for me, like being 5 years old and like having that, going through that.
So your first one was 5.
I was 5 years old when I had my first pulse dye laser treatment. And I think in your video, I saw that you had said that you had several done before 5.
I was, my last one before last year was at 5, but I had my first one when I was a couple weeks old. And then they were like every year until I had 6 before the age of, or by the age of 5, I had 6. And then I didn't have any until I was 25. So 20 years went by.
20 years. Can I ask why? What was like the big reason? What was your reason for like 6 to 25? I'm not getting anything down. I didn't want to.
So when I was little, I mean, obviously that was my parents' choice, but they, the research of what they were told, and I think it's still true, is that if you want to, prevent it from growing or changing over time, it was, the younger you are, the better the results yield. So my parents wanted to get it to a place where it was healthy. And so they did the 5 treatments, but back then, the lasers also weren't as strong or as successful. So I think what they accomplished in those 5 or 6 treatments when I was little can probably be accomplished in 1 these days. So I just left. I mean, there was no real change in my birthmark. I mean, it's really light right now, but there was no real change until I would say like from age 23 to 25 is when it started to definitely just get darker. Mostly I just noticed it was getting really puffy.
Same here. Like I was this area right here is like, I think you're the left side of your face. Yeah, same me. Same here. It got really puffy. So for me, it was, first one was at 5 and trauma. It was traumatic. Like so we lived in New Jersey. And to get to New York City, like the whole journey from point A to point B for me was like I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Or I couldn't do it at the time. Like it was always
Yeah.
gonna be like so difficult. Like so we took the bus to the city. We didn't take the train. And the
Okay.
bus you take to the city to go see Dr. Geronimo is bus 114.
Mm.
The bus 114 is like my arch nemesis. Because getting on bus 114 means pain.
Yep.
It means going to the city. It means having to walk to his office, to be in the stupid elevator.
Yep.
And even the elevator itself is like very vivid memories for me because
Yeah.
this memory, can I just talk to you about this elevator? Because it's the most
Yeah.
unique elevator you've ever heard.
Oh,
Most elevators will like go up and just stop at the floor, right?
right.
This elevator would go up a little bit, then
It'll go
like
down.
free fall into the position of the floor where it would stop at. So it would free fall by like a foot. So it would actually like feel for a second like you're just falling down.
Oh my god.
And that was part of my memories of going to Dr. Drama's office.
Yeah.
To get the laser. Then like feeling how cold the numbing cream was on your face.
Yeah.
As like a 5-year-old, and then having to wait in like the waiting room, which felt really cold, and I remember it
Yep.
being really cold. Like I remember that.
Yep.
And then like the eyelid thing.
Oh, no one talks about that, and I didn't have to do
It
that as a
is
child.
so on, and
It's
I remember that
horrifying.
it's almost similar to like. Are you familiar? I don't expect you to be familiar with this. Do you know the eyelids they put it like the middle eyelids they do for when someone passes away and they're
Yeah.
preparing them? It's like almost the same thing
It is to keep it like round. And
to keep it around.
I did not have to do. I don't remember. My mom doesn't recall that as a child. So walking in, obviously, it's already you're dreading it. But then when he just started approaching my eyeball with this metal thing, I was like, what is that? What is happening? Because it does go up here and a little bit under. And so he's like, we've got to protect your eye. And I'm like, what is that? And not only I've never worn contacts or anything, so that was super uncomfortable. But then the removing process, my last surgery, they put the little plunger on to remove it, and the plunger broke. So the like suction part was stuck, but the actual like thing to pull it off broke off. So it was like 15 minutes of trying to fish this thing out of my eye, and then just the smell.
Oh god, yeah. No one talks about the smell. The smell is like
Burning
it's like
flesh.
burning flesh. It's like it's burning flesh, and it's such a unique smell. It's horrifying. And then what else was like? Oh, and the stress ball. I was always giving stress balls.
Yep.
But the thing that I liked, especially in Geronimo's office, is like his assistant always held my hand on one side, and my mom held my hand on the other side. But the pain, as a 5-year-old, like nothing prepares you for that pain.
No, and I get really frustrated when people just say, oh, well, the doctors say it's like rubber bands. And I'm like, no.
It's not a rubber band.
It's not.
It's not.
To me, it feels like tiny knives being stabbed into my face. And I don't know the last time you had surgery, but the most recent surgery I had, they used a brand new laser. It's whatever the newest, like Prima, I think it's Prima something. And this laser is known to be the most painful, to the point where they are thinking about like pulling it from the market and revamping it because of how painful everyone says it is. The nurse had to keep wiping. I had tears were just like falling down my face. And she had to keep wiping my tears the whole time because that's how painful it was. And I'm like, people just think this is like getting a laser facial. And I'm like, no.
No, not
they
at
put
all.
the laser in my birthmark goes into my nose. So not only are the hairs getting zapped, but like it's horrifying.
No,
so
it really is like for me I would say knives, but like knives that have been like sitting in lava. It's like knives that have been sitting in lava and then they just pierce your face and then it comes back out. But then like there's that mist spray, right?
Yep.
Do you get the mist spray?
The like cryogel or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like the thing is, and I feel like I hope we're not scaring people with like getting the treatment. But the reality is like the procedure itself is painful, and especially like for me, and this is my experience, like my parents asked me, like, same for you, right? Like the first 3 laser treatments was really to just like reduce further complications.
Right.
But I remember my parents asking me, like, even at a very young age, like, do you want to keep going? Because they said at this point it's cosmetic. I was like, I will get one done as much as possible. But that's where like my mental health already started to like kind of go on the down. It was because, oh man, just so you guys, everyone knows, I'm an emotional mess ball. Yeah. Sensitive as they come, I might cry like 3 times. My wife is prepared to. But like for me, it was like I needed to get this done because I need to be normal.
Mm.
Like that was my
And I think that's a lot of people's battle with it, especially
yes.
parents who are making the
Hmm.
decision for their child. I really try to be brutally honest with them that that was the biggest gift my parents could have given me was the choice. You know, they made the decision up until 5-year-old can't decide that, but
Hmm.
every single year it was almost like how your birthday comes every year. Every year, I don't know if they picked a time or when it was, but we sat down, they would take me to dinner, they would just bring it up. You know, it was a no like problem kind of thing. Do you want to talk to a doctor about it? Do you want to, explore it? And I remember I only said yes once, and I was like 13 or 14. And this is at the time I had pizza face, like acne, like crazy. So I was dealing with the birthmark, the acne. It was just horrible. And I had, acne all over my back. So I felt like if I could just control one thing, like my birthmark, then maybe it would make me feel better.
Yeah, then it would just comb everything over and you'd be able to
Yeah.
just like move forward. Yes.
And I remember we went to a dermatologist, which now I also talk a lot about how there's a vast difference, and this is not knocking dermatologists at all, but a dermatologist has a very different perspective and viewpoint on vascular birthmarks than a vascular birthmark specialist.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned tenfold from Dr. Nelson than I ever did a dermatologist. And that's not saying that's just not their specialty, is not, a
Mm-hmm.
vascular issue. And they, most of the time, all they can offer is treatment. They don't have, the knowledge, at least in my experience, going to multiple different dermatologists. So I remember going at like 14 to talk to the dermatologist and was immediately turned off because I was like, like I feel like I'm just altering my identity at this point, and it just didn't sound enticing.
Oh yeah. So I'm presently not really like a person of faith, but my parents grew
Yeah,
up
me
very
neither.
religious, and I remember my mom told me that I said this when I was really young. She was like, "We can keep going and keep changing." I remember telling her. Apparently, I said this when I was like 5 or 6. I was like,
Uh-huh.
"No, because I can't change the way I look. 'Cause then God will be mad at me because He made me
Mm,
this way. If He
yeah,
made me this way, then I can't really change that, right? He might be
right,
upset with me." I remember
right.
saying that when I was really young, but to me, it wasn't like to me it was the choice was given to me, and like in my mind, I will do as many as I need to just be normal and fit in.
Yeah.
So like to just give you like my number, I'm 33 years old.
Hmm.
I think I have had um probably close to like 28
Okay.
full
So like
studies.
almost every year.
It's like literally almost every year. Um, like the average, yes, but there are some years like where I was able to do it like 3 times a year,
Yeah.
and then there's years where like I haven't had a laser treatment done. I think in maybe like 2 years, maybe a
Hmm.
year or so. But each laser treatment for me was like, okay, this is one step normal or one step closer to me feeling normal. And then the
Yeah.
reality of the situation is like that's
Yeah. It
not the
doesn't. It
formula.
doesn't. It's almost like putting a band-aid on it.
Yeah, like it's not the formula. Like the
Right.
formula for us to feel better about ourselves isn't like necessarily just our red, our pink, our purple, whatever shades that we
Hmm.
have just kind of going away. It's much
Yeah.
more internal. It's much more the way that we view ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that that's also, I haven't even put those dots together. I've been very open online about. I go to therapy. I started going to therapy in college, never for my birthmark. It was never anything like that, and I never viewed myself as having trauma from it. I never viewed myself, but through like, even conversations in the past 6 months with my therapist, it has become so blatantly obvious that there are so many characteristics I have as a person and walls that I've put up because of how I was protecting myself a lot of the time from, I was used to getting stared at and comments, especially as a
Yes.
female and the placement of mine. People, I've been approached so many times by cops about being abused. I've been called a liar for saying, "Oh, my boyfriend abuses me," and that puts strain on a relationship. There's so many components that I have
There's so
realized.
many layers. And I think that's why I was so excited to talk to you and why I'm so excited to and we can talk more about like what my plans are at the end, but
Yeah,
the mental aspect of what we go through is not mentioned like anywhere. I
yeah.
don't see it. I really don't see it. Like same here. Like the amount of times that I've been asked if I got into a fight. I got asked at the end of a job interview,
Mm.
um, if I had gotten into a fight and if they should be worried about something.
And and I'm sure that puts a impact on their deciding if you're going to get the job or not.
I
Like,
got it. I
yeah,
got it.
that's good.
I got it. But like I used to do this thing where I would take responsibility for people's ignorance/curiosity.
Yeah, me too.
where they would come up to me and they would say, "Oh my God, what happened?"
Yeah.
Or like, "Did you get into a fight or did something terrible happen?" I'm like, "Oh no, no." And
Hmm.
I would literally preface it by saying, "Oh no, 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 don't feel bad what I'm about to tell you."
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to say that all the damn time, and now I
Hmm.
don't. Like, I refuse to just take responsibility for that. Like,
Yeah.
if you have your thought or your opinion of me, like that is yours to deal with on your own. I'm not going to be. I'm not going to make it my agenda to have to change everyone's opinion about me because it's impossible to.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Like, you
I,
have to decide who to do that with and who not to do that with.
even the juxtaposition of the female and male experience, I talk a lot with different followers about this. And, for women, it's like, I always get asked if I'm sick because, oh, you look flush, or if I, people know me, if I wear makeup and then I don't, it's like, oh my gosh, you look like really off. Something like you're not looking like yourself. And it's like, but this is myself. And
Yes,
that becomes really like a mental thing. And, um,
I got offered a home remedy on a flight to Costa Rica once. Look, she was a very nice woman, but she was like, just pour
yeah.
some ginger and mix some vinegar and you're good to go. And I'm like,
Yeah, and
ma'am, if only that were true, maybe. Maybe.
right, I always tell people, I've become definitely a lot more sassy. I mean, maybe it depends on my mood, honestly, when people approach me. But I was in my elevator in my building, and a woman was in the elevator with me and just reached and touched my face, and she's like, "Oh, honey, you have dirt all over." And I'm like, if someone had one arm and was standing there, would you ever, first of all, touch their,
Yeah,
limb
like
and say
you
like,
just
wow, did it hurt when the shark bit you? Like, what?
mhm.
First of all, like the assumption. I always try to give that example to people because I'm like, you are placing so much assumption. And I think a lot of it stems from the placement of it, the coloring. I'm a female, it might look this way. And I'm like, there's just such, and it's also downplayed because I know I say it a lot, it's just a birthmark, but there is a lot more to it. It's not just like a birthmark. So many people, when they're embarrassed, if I call them out after they say something, I'm like, listen, it's a vascular birthmark, blah, blah, blah. I was born this way. They love to like lift up their sleeve and show me their like little brown birthmark that they have. And they're like, oh, I have one too. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. But that's also
Yeah.
completely like devaluing the experience that I've gone through, the trauma that's associated. And that part is really hard because I can see how people are trying to be relatable, relate to it, but it's nothing like that. And it's difficult because it seems like you're just complaining because seemingly it could be a lot worse,
Yeah.
right?
How was school for you? Like growing
Um,
up school
yeah,
wise?
so we moved a lot. I lived
Hmm.
in like 13 different houses growing up. And so we moved a lot. We also moved around the country a lot. So I feel like that's where also a lot of my trauma response comes in, is because I knew meeting new people. I knew kind of how that was going to go. I could predict, kids also have no filters. So people would,
Yeah,
point
yeah,
at it, stare at it, ask questions, whatever. Um, but once I was older, middle school into high school, I was at the same school for most of those years. And so I feel like the initial reactions with people in school or new teacher or substitute, whatever, you can tell. I mean, people think that they're being discreet when they're looking at it, but just the simple tiny shift in someone's eyes constantly during a conversation, you can tell people are
yeah. Like,
looking
you
at it.
don't know. Like, and this is part of the stuff I deal with all the time. Is like, I have no idea sometimes why I catch people looking at me.
Yeah, I don't either, but I
Like,
think it's something we become.
yeah, but for us, it's like, oh, you know it. You see it. You,
Yeah,
you you know exactly what I see in myself and how terrible I see it in myself, that you can
yeah.
almost like feel it as well.
Yeah, it's very distracting, mentally, if I'm just at the Trader Joe's and I'm trying to just check out and I can see they're just checking me out. They haven't said anything, but I notice in myself immediately. Then it's in my head. It's like, they're looking at it. Oh, it was really actually interesting when we wore masks because so many of us, I think it's like
There was a safety
67%.
there.
Yeah,
Hmm.
there was like
There was
67%
a
of people
safety
have it on
there
their
for us.
face. So most of us were, able to cover it in a way. And that was interesting. So I really noticed it when masks were lifted because it
No,
instantly flooded back.
yeah, like school. So school for me, to be honest, like I have the luxury of being able to say that I wasn't like honestly mercilessly bullied. at
Yeah.
all,
Yeah,
to
I
be honest. Like,
wasn't bullied too much either.
no, like I was bullied, I think, on 3 occasions in middle school, and like in all those occasions, those 3 individuals ended up like apologizing to me like sometime after.
Right. Yeah, I
You
think
know
it
what I
was like
mean?
a one-time incident, you know.
Yeah, but like I think for me personally, like I think my prime was like middle school in a sense, but in the
Yeah.
sense of like it was before I was truly self-conscious about it. And it
Yeah.
was before, and it was like honestly up until middle school, I think like half of middle school, I there would be times I would look into the mirror and I would forget I have it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you sometimes you are able to be like your that true version of yourself.
Yeah.
And then you go through that moment of looking in the mirror and you're like, oh yeah, that's a thing. And then like all
Yeah.
that negativity surrounding it,
hmm
it's like a vulnerability and it just comes all pouring back in.
Yeah.
And then I think like and then I think puberty just ruined me in the sense of like hormones and now just being so
Yeah.
self-conscious of girls and everything. And then that's I think like late middle school, early high school for me personally was when I really started to be like really mean to myself.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just utterly just cruel and mean, and like I would literally tell myself things like, yes, you have friends, but like no one's into you,
hmm
or yeah, you have this support network, but like you're gonna end up alone.
Yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
did
Like
similar with makeup. It was my whole thing was I thought I was ugly. I thought when I wore makeup, I was like, okay, I feel like I look like everyone else. Like I look pretty good. But if I had no makeup on, and I even my whole like I remember I probably started at like 12 or 13. I would always say if I wasn't wearing makeup for whatever reason around people, I would say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I look so bad today." Like I would constantly apologize.
oh
Like I look
yeah.
so ugly. Like, or in a photo, I don't know. I always said I was sorry because I
hmm
looked bad. I
Yeah,
would
like
say I looked
we
bad.
would
Yeah.
take, yeah, like I think you and I share that. Like we would take responsibility for like offending people somehow.
It's like what? And
Why?
no one has ever apologized to me for being in a wheelchair or something. It's so interesting, but I think it's because it's just severe enough to where for us it feels very traumatic, but it's not this like overbearing disability that we have. It's such
No,
a
and
fine
that's why
line.
like that's why I feel like, and again, this is not coming from me. We are, I think it's we're fortunate enough to say we don't have a condition necessarily that is life threatening,
hmm
right? But it's a never ending journey that we face from the mental perspective and like how we view ourselves, how we feel about ourselves. Like I'm 33. I can't say that I've conquered this.
Right.
And I think for me, I go through many cycles in my life where I feel good. I can look in the mirror and I like what I see. And there's moments in my life where I look in the mirror and or I avoid the mirror entirely. But
Yeah.
I think in my darkest moments, I would genuinely like wake up, not look in the mirror, just look at my hair.
Mm,
And
yeah.
just like for me, I don't know if you have of these triggers, but I hate white lights, like
Mm.
the office type cubicle powerful white lights
Where they're
because
almost like purple, like purpley white. Yeah.
it makes my poor mind stain like just so apparent.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And so
avoid
I
certain
would,
colors of clothes. Like,
yeah, so I would avoid, I would hate being in a room. I would walk in if I was going somewhere new or just like school or something and there was like a bright white light.
mhm.
I'm like, oh, it's not gonna be a good time here.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
I avoid pictures even to this day. Like
Mm.
pictures to you posting my picture on your Instagram,
Uh-huh.
the amount of anxiety.
Really?
Yes, like and you can ask my wife. There's two things that I know my wife in this world. And one is like when I shrug my shoulders because I don't know the answer to a question, gets her
Uh-huh.
every time.
Uh-huh.
And the second is me just not wanting to be in any pictures.
Photos.
Like I just can't do them.
Yeah.
And that's still something that I'm working on present day. Is just
Right.
the ability to see myself and at all
Yeah.
is something that even to me, I work at present day. A lot of people think too, like, oh, you're a therapist,
Right.
you must be like the master of your own will.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
no, if anything, it makes it worse because like I know very well myself and I know very well the things I need to work on, but that doesn't mean that I just magically do it and like it goes away.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think for me on my personal journey with Port Saint, it has had a lot of ups and downs. And for me, it's been so difficult because a lot of it too has just been self-imposed.
Right.
I can't say that I was mercilessly bullied. I
Mhm.
can't say that like I didn't have friends. I can't say that like girls had crushes on me in like middle school and high school. And to me, it's
Mhm.
like I look back at that era and I'm like, how?
Right.
Like, how could anyone be into me if I have this?
Mhm.
That's how cool I am, how I was in many facets, and that's something
Yeah.
that I still need to work on now. Is like, so going back, like I really want to make something clear because like the process of getting the pulsed dye laser, it's not easy
Right.
and it's traumatic. But to me, I always saw it as necessary pain to achieve
Yep.
something.
And your birthmark
And
looks very healthy too.
thank you.
That's weird
But
to
like,
say, but you can
no,
tell people who have never had treatment, there's a vast difference in how it looks with people who've maintained it.
yeah, it's true. That's true. But
Mhm.
I want to say, like, if someone is out there watching this and thinking to themselves, should get the laser a lot, should not get it at all, you need to ask yourself, like, why? What do you want to achieve from it?
Right. Right.
But I really don't want people to think or assume I'm gonna get 28 like Orlando does and or did, and then I'm gonna be like super happy with myself. Like, that's not
Yeah.
necessarily gonna be that
Well, and
outcome.
I
Will it
don't know if
make you
you feel
more?
this way.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, for me, going from, 20 years of not having it to then having surgery, having that humongous difference in, because mine was very dark, like maroon color, even a year
Yeah, I
ago.
was pretty dark.
And so going from that to now it being, it's, like flesh toned, and obviously it changes when I'm hot or cold or if I work out or something. But
Mhm.
even that, I was so comfortable. It was 20 years of I had gotten used to that looking that way. And now going to this where it's subtle, it almost is a whole new getting used to this side of myself, because it's so subtle, it almost makes it worse, because when it was obvious, it was like clearly there's something on her face, but now it's like, oh, is there something there? And there's
It's
that
just a
hole.
Yeah, it's a different dynamic. It's never ending. It's
Yeah.
just it's a never ending cycle and journey for all of us. And you're gonna have your ups and downs. Everyone,
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone. Like for me, I my childhood best friend is my barber, and he cut my hair
Oh.
recently,
Uh-huh.
and he's like, dude, I've been cutting your hair for a while now, and doing your beard. You don't grow in this area, and I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
I don't grow hair there.
Interesting.
And
That's
I told, as my
interesting.
dermatologist, I was like, "Is it the port wine? Is it something else?"
Uh-huh.
He's like, It might be the port wine." He's like, If you want, you could even try like the Rogaine stuff and just apply it there and see if hair will grow
Yeah,
back
that's
or it will grow." And I
interesting.
was like, "Oh, that's funny." Yeah.
Do you have any like gum or teeth issues?
Yes,
Me
I
too.
have port wine steam. You and I are similar because you have it right here, right? Right on your
Yeah, it's
upper
here.
lip.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't know about you, but I jump every single time when the laser is in that area.
Oh, yeah. This is the worst. And there's
This
a
is the worst.
there's a girl, Chelsea, who's a part of the community. Her birthmark is only right here. It's just there, and she has to get. Some people have been getting debulking surgery on their lips recently, and that's extremely painful as well.
What do
But
you mean by
yeah,
debulking? Like
there's some
just
people
pulse dye
who
laser on the
I don't. There's an
lips?
extra. They're getting like tissue removal.
Oh, I did that.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I'll talk about it. So I've had 28 um laser pulse dye treatments, and then
Mhm.
I met Dr. Levitin. My mom found him
Mhm.
like 2 years ago because the one thing I never did, and I do regret, but I regret it from like a sense of just I should have just sat through the pain
Yeah.
because like getting the pulse dye laser here was horrible.
Yeah.
And it's just so painful. But the thing is, like, it's quick, right? It's quick.
Right. Right.
It's
Right.
not a
Right.
lasting pain. It's not a pain that stays with us. It's just a quick,
Right.
instant pain, but it's still a really strong one. I couldn't do it. So I don't know if you can see, but like for me, my upper lip is perfectly split,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
So mine
perfectly
is too.
split.
Right here, it stops, but they say it's very rare. At least I've connected with thousands of people online. Rarely does it cross the hemisphere of the brain. Actually, is what they say. It's like rare that it goes on both. There's only like a small percentage of people where it's on both sides of basically half of the face.
Yeah. So like I never got it done on my lips, and I think over time, since I never got my lips treated, my lips over time did start to like
Mhm.
puff up, get really swollen up,
Mine
and
has sagged a lot. It's very subtle right
yeah.
now, but you can tell. And then when I wear sunglasses is
Mhm.
when I can really tell that this side is much higher, because my glasses are always crooked because they sit on this cheek.
It's the same. I get the same thing. It's the
Hmm.
same thing. Like one thing that's not talked about too is just like one thing is our color, one thing is our shades of the
Right,
port
right.
wine, right? But the other thing too is just like is the we don't have that symmetry. Not all of us have that symmetry,
Yeah.
and that symmetry in and of itself is like something that that I seek after.
Mm-hmm.
And that symmetry itself is like part of the reason why I went through with Dr. Leviton, who was like amazing. So he actually was
Yeah.
able to like remove part of like this my bottom lip, which
That's
was a
awesome.
bit bigger,
Yeah.
and he was able to work on this lip a little bit.
That's great.
And to me, like the mental health aspect, what that did provide for me, I think was really powerful because at that time, and even then, like symmetry now is what kind of is on my plate more than like my color.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I
like,
could
and that's
agree
why I
with
say
that.
it's just never ending, and
It
I mean
is.
that in like a nice way and like a terrible way too.
Yeah, it is. It truly is
It's
a
true.
journey. Yeah, it is. And I think that's what I really try to get across, especially to the parents who I talk to a lot, is that this is not a let's knock out 15 surgeries while the baby's 1 years old and like get this over with. Cause I'm like, it's not an even
No, it's not.
with this, even if you can, I learned this past year, I didn't realize I read a lot of like medical journals and stuff, anything the Vascular Birthmark Association puts out or they put out, when any new research, even if it's to the naked eye not visible anymore, it's still a gene mutation, so it's
Hmm.
still underneath the skin, which is fascinating to me because I always recommend, even if you're not ready to address surgery yet or you're not ready for that, there is not enough education around, you have to get it checked out, because that the whole reason I even got the 2 treatments I did is because I had nodules that I had over 20 that had formed.
Oh wow,
I didn't
yeah.
even know that was a thing. I had
No,
no
I've had
idea.
yeah, like even right now, my camera, the quality of my camera isn't the
Hmm.
greatest, but like I have little bumps here that are
Yeah, I
starting to
get
get
like that
bigger.
was where like my biggest one was. You can kind of see a dot there, but I had seen a little. I don't know. It looked like veins to me. I'm like, it just looks like veins. But the second I went in, Dr. Nelson's like, oh no, there's like quite a few of these nodules that had formed, and he had explained to me, if we don't address these, because I was so against surgery, I really did not want it, and he was like, listen, if we let these progress, it is naturally going to progress. He was like, once the nodules compound, they become untreatable. And so he's like, it's a now or never sort of thing. And I'm like, great. So I have no choice basically. And then there's
Have
a
you?
financial component.
Oh yes, the financial. Have you? Before we get into the finances, have you had it done without the numbing cream
I think as a kid,
as a
maybe,
kid?
but not these, but truly the numbing cream didn't really do much for me.
So I had the numbing cream literally from like my first port wine or post diet treatment
Mhm.
to like just well actually let me rephrase it. The last treatment I got
Um,
was no numbing cream. This
okay.
was maybe like a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Um, and I don't know if the laser changed or whatnot, but I have to say it wasn't that bad.
Mm.
It,
I
w-
have heard
to
there's
be honest
better
with you,
results without the numbing cream.
and I've heard that too. And oh, what was I gonna say? The numbing cream, yeah, like I would never have done it. I did it for always with numbing cream, never without numbing cream. And this was one last time I did it, and I sat through it, but I couldn't do it all. So I you can't see it because my beard covers, but like
Yeah.
I also have it on my neck.
Okay.
So for me, like it's over here in this area,
Yeah.
very much here. I have it here. I have it in my ear.
Oh, do you
And
have any hearing issues?
not that I'm aware of actually.
Okay.
I don't think I
And what
do.
about your eye?
This eye that has the port wine on it is
Uh-huh.
actually weaker,
Okay.
but not like terribly weaker.
Okay.
I don't have like really bad. I don't have like glaucoma or any like serious eyesight issues, thankfully. But I saw one of your videos where you talked
Uh-huh.
about some people get it on their eyelid.
Yeah.
I had it on my eyelid. I
Brutal.
actually have I forget too because honestly I've had so much that it actually has
I
faded
know.
in certain areas.
Yeah.
But I have it up here and on my nose and on my
Hmm.
eyelid. So pretty much like just this whole area is
Yeah.
porn.
Yeah.
Um, but like I really don't want to deter people from getting the treatment itself.
Yeah. That's why I really try my best to there's just an education component that's so important to
Yeah,
it. Removing the
and
cosmetic factor.
right, and just like the mental health is too what I want to talk more about too, because like I said, it's not a guarantee of happiness. It's not a
Yeah.
guarantee of like you're gonna look in the mirror and like everything that you've struggled with before is just gonna like disappear. It's not. Which
Yeah.
is why I really want to talk to you about like therapy and everything. So I didn't finish my origins
Yeah,
So
sorry.
I initially want no, this happens all the time. I actually want to be a dermatologist because I wanted to treat it.
Mm,
And so when I was 18, I went back to Costa Rica, and I got into like a good medical school. So the med school is way different down there. Like at a high school, you can go straight into it, but
okay.
medical school is much longer.
Okay.
Here in the U.S., it's 4 years. Down in Costa Rica, it's a 7-year program.
Okay.
So I'm like 18, 19 years old. I'm living on my own for the first time. I'm doing so many things on my own the first time. And honestly, maturity wise, I just don't think I was ready for medical school.
Yeah.
But I also found myself just not being passionate for it. And then I came back to the States not really knowing what to do, but therapy or just like talking and counseling had always been like a strong interest of mine. And just at the end of the day, I still wanted to help people.
Right.
And I wanted to help people like me. Um, so I decided to become a therapist, and the route to become a therapist is pretty firm and concrete. So I did
Yeah.
it. Um, but like just like the mental health of port wine and just my personal experiences, like I said, at the end of the day, whether you have like 28 treatments like me or no treatments at all, there's no guarantee of how we're going to feel with ourselves.
Hmm.
There's no guarantee of having all this done, of having my lips reduced
Yep.
and less puffy. Like it's not, there's no magical cure at the end of the day for like how we feel and think about ourselves. And
Yeah.
that's really what I'm trying to do now, which is focus. So I have a private practice
Yep.
and I work with a variety of people and issues. I work really with like depression and life issues, conflicts, depression. And I just feel like and I did research on mental health and us. Like I literally typed in like Port Weinstein mental health, Port
There's
Weinstein
nothing.
counseling, Port Weinstein therapy. And all I found was like these really small, either
Mm,
Facebook groups. Thankfully I found you, and
yeah.
you're huge and you're growing, and I'm so happy that you
Thank you.
exist and you have the courage like to do this, because I have so much respect for everyone, because like I went on your page and all I see is like these walls of pictures of just people like us posting pictures of themselves like
And
openly and
everyone
freely.
is like you. I mean, when they send these photos,
And
like
like
a lot of these people have told me I've never photographed myself before. Like this is
and
the first
and
time.
that I don't think people understand how monumental
Yeah.
that can be,
Yeah.
and how like to get to that point is huge.
It is. And people, I think now that, if they just hop on and see the stuff I post, I mean, I post nonstop and share on across a billion different platforms. But 2 years ago, when I made my first video, like it was the only reason I made a birthmark related video is because there was some sound trending where it was like, if you have something weird with your body, like show it off. I can't remember it was some strange
Yeah,
TikTok
yeah, yeah.
sound. And I saw a girl with different kind of birthmark, but some sort of skin condition show that. And I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll show my birthmark. And I just remember I kept filming it like this with my hair like down because I was like, but I'm like, the whole point is I'm trying to show my birthmark. So it was this mental thing. And the video did kind of well. There was a couple people who were like, I have that too. And then I started showing it a little bit more. But at that point, I had never posted like a makeup-less photo or
Yeah, like
anything.
we don't like really exist in anything. Like we're not represented. There isn't really many of us. Like yes, there are some like celebrities I think that have it, but it's not
Yeah.
really like talked about or showcased or championed. Like
It's not in movies, it's not in TV,
it's not.
there's no
I saw it in a
characters.
movie once, but I was annoyed with it because it was like an action movie, and just like one of
Mhm.
the henchmen had it.
Yep.
But he
And
got like beat up by the main character in like 2 seconds, there we go.
yeah, and
That was
Orange is the
us.
New Black. They used
Was
one of the jailmates had it, but it was the same concept. She was like supposed to be rough around the edges and she like looked
Yeah,
terrible.
like and so like for mental health too, like, and I looked and there isn't anything. Like
Hmm.
there isn't anything. Like yes, there's the physical aspect of us having this, and the medical concerns and what we can do and we can't do, but like the stuff that's deeper than our blood veins and the color is our feelings, is our emotions, how we think and view ourselves. So here's what I really want to push for in people, anyone who's watching this and either has Port Weinstein, or like you're dating someone with it, or you just know a loved one is to talk to them about it, see how they feel about it, and like to push them to talk to someone if they're ready for that. Going to therapy, and this is really for anyone now, like going to therapy is accepting that you need to go to therapy is hard in and of itself,
Yeah.
because it means you feel like you need help, and there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with needing and asking for help. But going to therapy also means being vulnerable.
Right.
It means being vulnerable and talking about things that you haven't talked about with anyone, and showing sides of yourself that you haven't shown to anyone, and saying words out loud that have never been, released or
Yeah.
used or said by your voice. It's like it's horror. It can be horrifying,
Yeah.
but it's also extremely powerful to be able to talk to someone. And I think part of the reason why I'm trying to now start something myself is because I wish
Yeah.
there was someone that I could relate to, or someone that knew what I was going through. And I think, at my age, I think I'm a little older than you. I think you're in
I'm
your
25. Yeah.
yeah, and so I'm a little older, and I can tell you from personal experience. I can talk to people about this as a therapist. So I'm really trying to. So my wife and I are deciding to kind of open up something.
Hmm.
It's so raw right now, but at the end of the day, what we really want to work with is just people that either have Point Weinstein, or that are married to someone or dating someone with Point Weinstein, and we're trying to kind of create this like support network of either designing something where it's support groups, or just like someone to talk to, or for me to work with a family that doesn't know what to do or wants to explore this side of their son or daughter's life of,
Yeah.
okay, we can do the laser treatments, but what are they really going through? How can we really be there for them? How can we support them now with the other stuff,
Yeah. I think
which
that's
is
such a
much more
missing
profound, and it's
resource.
a missing component, I think.
I
And
agree. I think you'll realize very quickly this community is very thirsty for connection, and that is how I've been able to grow so quickly and meet so many people. So I think hopefully once we share this, there's also the free clinics that are hosted by birthmark.org, the Vascular Birthmark Association, and those would be great opportunities. They
yeah,
bring
because I
in.
even I looked them up recently, and again, like the focus is on the physical and the
Yep.
medical condition. I get it, but
Yep.
so much more
Yep.
to us than that, than
Well, that's
just
what I'm saying. I
than
think
just
that's a
our
great
color.
time to come to them and say, where's the mental aspect of this? Because that's been my biggest issue with the clinics is it's like so little information and education. It's so churn and burn. Let's get you in and do a consultation and laser and move on. And I'm like, wait a second. Well, we're not even, that was, and I was very frank with Dr. Nelson. And I explained to him, because when I walked into the office, he's like, wow, such a pretty girl. Let's get this, surgery booked. We'll do another one in 6 weeks. We'll be back and you'll have this thing removed in a year. And I broke down. I was like, listen, that is the farthest thing from why I'm
Going back to
here.
the finances, right?
Yeah.
So my insurance is only, every time I switch insurance, they only give me one free pulse-dye laser treatment. That was it.
Really?
That was it. And then when we first came to the country, there was a I forget the foundation. I think it was called Operation Smile.
Yeah.
I wonder if anyone, are you familiar with this? Have you
Yeah, I'm
heard of this?
familiar with them. Yeah.
They had like a Port Wine thing. I remember going as a 6-year-old or like 5-year-old to like this convention, I think in the city. It was a bunch of other kids
Mm.
like me,
Mm.
but I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, that's also a lot. Yeah.
I was not ready for that. I remember being there and being just like, actually, no, I don't think I was 5 or 6. I think I was a little older, maybe around like 8 or 9, I think.
Okay.
But I remember just even being so weirded out seeing just other kids like me.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
there
remember
isn't that.
so, yeah. And there's another component too. Like, I see us on the wild.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
sometimes like kind of see someone else and you're like, I sometimes, very recently, I think I can't tell because of the pandemic mask. She always had a mask on,
Hmm.
but I recognize those shades of red.
Hmm.
And my kids, so I have twin boys, and we had them in soccer classes, and I think our coach had it. And I'll look at other people like us, and I won't say anything. I won't go up to them, but like I'll give them a high five in my brain.
Yeah.
I'll give them like a high five, like just like a
Yep.
mental high five of like,
I'm the
I
opposite.
know
I
what
am the
you're
person
going through.
chasing. If I see someone with it, I am
Oh, you
not
do?
gonna let
I
it go.
can't. Oh no,
Yeah.
I respect. I can't. I can't. I'm like, I'm gonna. I think it's because I just wouldn't want anyone to approach me about it.
Yeah. Well,
I would
I'm
rather you just
definitely
kind of
throw a
like
lot of
give
people
me
off.
like if someone just came up to me and they were just kind of like pointing at each other's
Yeah.
shades. Oh, I'd love that. I would love that. I just
Yeah.
kind of keep it moving.
I think I mean, I've probably done it at least 25 times, but
Oh,
I also feel like I'm a magnet for it. Now that I talk about it all the time, and I obviously,
mhm.
I used to hide it a lot. Now that I'm embracing it, I swear I see people every week. It's crazy. But
You do? No, I don't. I feel like I haven't seen one of us in a while. I haven't seen a Port Wine brother sister in the wild.
That's
in a
funny.
little
Well,
while.
I
Yeah.
always say, there has to be 1 in 3,000 people are born with a port wine stain. So it's
Hmm.
like, that's a lot of people living out there. And the fact that we don't see them, I'm like, how I was trying to do the math, and it was a really funny experience. I was at a baseball game with my brother and my boyfriend, and we sit down and I said, okay, there's how many people in this stadium? Like 15,000? What, like, how many are? And they're like, probably. And I'm like, that would mean there's at least 5 of us here. Like, where are they? And I was explaining that sometimes I feel like I go through waves where I haven't seen people in a long time. And it was the craziest thing. You're never going to believe it. We're sitting there and we're eating like a hot dog or something. And the people in front of us take their seat, and the guy has a port wine stain down his whole neck, arm, face.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I freaked out. I tapped on his shoulder. I was like, I am so sorry, but you're never going to believe this. Like 20 seconds ago, I was saying that I don't ever meet people. And he was really not like comfortable talking about it. He says he doesn't even really know much about what it is. Like, he just knows that it's
That
like
I
there.
feel like that's to me that's scary and it's common though. I feel like a
Yeah,
lot of
it's
people live
very, I
through
get
it,
that probably 75%
and
of the time.
yeah, it's surprising to me because like it's either addressed or people don't think it's anything to really be investigated or looked at, and it's interesting to me.
Yeah, a lot
It,
of people have told me, oh, the doctor just said it was a birthmark and I can just live my life. And I'm like,
oh, so it was just like misdiagnosed then.
a lot of people have
A
said
lot of us
that.
misdiagnoses.
Yeah, yeah. Especially because when I came out, like out of the womb after I was born, it wasn't very dark. It really didn't darken until
Same
later.
here. I don't have it. I think it's in this house. I'm in my parents' house right now, and there is a huge baby picture of me in Costa Rica, and like it is a nice little shade of pink.
Yeah, yeah, mine too. And
A
people
nice
are
little
like,
shade
I
of
don't
pink.
get it. And I'm like, no, it really wasn't noticeable that
Oh yeah, it got
much.
darker for me. For me, even though I had like the 28, my port wine stain is stubborn.
Mm,
It was a red that did not. It was a deep red and purple that did not want to lighten up.
yeah.
It didn't. But I'm at a place personally where I'm like happy with. I'll continue to get treatments as needed and as like to, but it's not the same motivation anymore. Where it's like I need to look normal.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Where
for
I
me,
think
it's the same.
I think I've grown to like love it in a sense. I've grown to love it in many ways because in a way, not to be corny, but like the whole no pain no gain, what does it make you stronger
Yep,
thing, like this does force us to face certain things that a lot of people don't go through.
yep.
And I think it's refined. It's forced me to either like survive through it and get better with it or succumb to it. And I like to think that I haven't conquered it. I haven't
Yep.
like it's not in the rearview mirror anymore, but I think I'm
Right.
ahead of it, way ahead of it. So I would never take it back. Like I wouldn't
I
like
agree
press a
with you.
button to just make it disappear at this point. Like I can't because there's no guarantee that I'll continue to be who I am, and I do like who I am. But on a personal level, and something I need to continue to work on in therapy is the emotional self harm I've done to myself
Yep.
is very real. The telling myself not good enough, not good looking, not attractive, no one wants to be with me, etc., etc. Um, it's
Where
just
I found so much strength in it is the opportunity. I'm like, okay, I was born this way, I have this thing on my face. What what can I do with what can I make out of this situation? And so that's
Mhm.
where my motivation has really come in the past couple of years of kind of I guess making lemonade out of lemons sort of thing is there's such a missing gap of representation. Like that, I love the diversity and inclusion conversation that's been happening, but I even say people like us are completely skipped over in that conversation. People are so focused on limb differences or skin color, and there's so many people that are seemingly living with things like we are, and where's the representation for that in mainstream media or beauty campaigns or
Yeah,
commercials?
there isn't. Like I remember being younger and Googling like port wine stained celebrities, and there'd be like I think like a Russian politician that would always pop up.
Yeah, he does always pop up.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think he has it. I think he has like in his head. I think he's bald guy. I think it's like right
yeah.
over here. And I'm like, that's okay. That's nice. I'm not hating on the guy, but is that
It's
the
also
extent
not the
of us?
same. Yeah. There
No,
is also a big
that's
difference
true.
in having it on your face and having it on your body too. There's a big difference in experience there.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, like just how we see ourselves and how we feel about ourselves is just it can be really difficult and vicious and
Yeah.
I need to work on it and I don't have any shame in saying that like I'm being very real and I hope people can walk away from this like kind of recognizing that it's okay to struggle with this, and you don't have to do it alone. Like
Yeah,
you can go talk to a therapist, you can see a counselor. It doesn't have to be anyone that you don't feel comfortable with at all. And I think it'd be very powerful for everyone like us to go through that experience.
I agree with you. And I'm hopeful for you too. Like the more that you get comfortable putting yourself out there online, I think you'll be so
Yes, so
excited
like
to connect with everyone.
so I mean like right now we haven't set it up yet, the Instagram page, but we're working on like really designing what we're gonna do. But I think in the meantime, like people are more than welcome to just visit my website. I have a little blurb there on Port Wine Stain, and there's a contact form where you can just like shoot me an email, and we can just go from there.
That's awesome. I'll be
And
sure
I'm
to
really
share
looking
that
forward.
resource too.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to just hearing from anyone, whether
Yeah.
you have poor mindset yourself, whether you're a parent that like you just want to explore that aspect of parenting, and how to work with your, or how to just be with your child and support them in ways beyond just take them to the dermatologist to get the full style laser. It
Yeah.
doesn't end there.
I agree with you. I'm so glad we were able to connect and talk.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And
Of
I thank you.
course.
And honestly, I'm
Um,
in so awe of you, and and you're like you're so crucial to us.
thank
You
you.
really are, because like we're not out there, and you're
Yeah,
putting us out there, and that's like huge. It's
I'm
huge.
trying. Yeah, it's definitely been quite the journey, but I'll have to send you over some merch so you can have a birthmark. Have you seen my apparel that I
Yes,
make?
yes. My wife showed me. It looks really awesome. I want it. She's gonna order
I'll,
something actually.
okay, yeah, I'll have to send you something. I have some new stuff coming out next month too.
Perfect. I'm really excited. Well, thank you so much.
Yay!
It's so nice. We'll touch base soon. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, maybe if people have questions, feel free to I'll put this on a few platforms. So if you have questions, you can DM or comment below and I can send those over to
Yeah,
Orlando and you
definitely.
guys can visit his website, whatever you need. So this is so much fun. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Take care. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Talk to you soon.
That's a wrap on the interview. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me and Orlando chat about our experiences. Comment below. I will provide information for you guys more when Orlando is ready to start accepting patients, specifically with facial differences or allies of the community, whatever it might be. But don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and I can't wait to see you guys on the next one. By the way, I got a cat.